Hello, my name is Chris Hludzik, and welcome to Chris Hludzik Explains, the series where I explain the stories behind my releases and my songs. And it's been a while since the last installment, but I am releasing a new EP. It's going to be called Another Last Stand, and it's going to be available December 7th, 2018 from chrishludzik.bandcamp.com. Now, I know I usually do these videos after I've already released the specific releases that I talk about, but I figured I'd do it a little differently this time. Maybe I figure if I give some of the backstory on this release before it comes out, maybe it'll compel more people to buy it. So basically, my last official release was in 2017, a single I released called Like Ian Hunter. But prior to that, it was 2014's Nervous No More, which was also an EP. So in a way, you can kind of say this is my first release in almost 5 years. But I've been working on this for a little while, about a year, and it started off, interestingly enough, with an idea I had for a side project. And I don't know why I wanted to toy around with the idea of doing a side project, but I don't know, I felt maybe it would be cool, maybe it would motivate me to do more songs or something, I don't know. But in the process of all this, I was sending demos to my good friend Adam Kime of the Project Ash Radio, and he said, yeah, they sound great, but they don't sound like a side project, they sound like Chris Hludzik. But that's not a bad thing. And I was kind of deflated a little bit, but in a way, I was like, yeah, well, it's not a bad thing if it sounds like Chris Hludzik, So I went ahead with the project as Chris Hludzik. And things went pretty, okay from there as far as coming up with material for the EP. So there's 4 songs on it, and before I go into the songs, though, I want to talk a little bit about the title. I call this one Another Last Stand, and it's kind of a bit of a joke, but it's also a bit serious. There's 2 meanings to it. The joke part is, every time I do a release, and I know I'm not the only musician that does this, but every time I put out a new release, I would always tell my wife or my friends, oh, I don't know, this might be the last thing I do, I don't know. And then as soon as I say that, I start working on more songs, or I get an opportunity to do something else, and there I am again, right back at it. So instead of saying this time, this was my last stand, I called it Another Last Stand. But on the serious side, any stand you make in life can be your last stand, potentially. And if you happen to survive that stand, then you live to make another stand. So it's just kind of like, if you can get through certain hard things in life, it kind of gives you the encouragement and the motivation to move forward. And that's certainly been true with my music, I just, I always want to keep moving forward, So I like the title. I'm fond of 3-word titles. All my releases have been 3-word titles, so this was no exception. And I like the title. I think it's a pretty cool title. As for the songs, I said there's 4 songs on it. The first song on the album isn't a song. The first song on the EP, rather, isn't a song. It's a poem that I set to some synthesizer backing. And it's called Dim Spark. And I wrote the poem, like 11 years ago. And it was really nothing more than that. It was just a poem. I wrote it. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And as I was coming up with how I was going to put this EP together, I thought that would be a cool little kind of intro track, really. And Dim Spark is just basically about inspiration, As a musician, as a songwriter, inspiration is key, I'm not a person that can just kind of sit down and say, oh, I'm going to write a song today. I have to feel inspired to do it. So when I get that spark of inspiration, I got to run with it, I can't let anything else get in my way, because if I do, then that spark gets smothered and it doesn't create a fire that, you know, results in anything. And I think that's the way most, if not all, creative people are. We've all got that dim spark that's inside of us that we're just waiting to turn into a, you know, turn into a big fire. And it's important to never let that spark die out, because, you know, it's all we have really as creative people. So I thought that'd be a cool intro track. The next song is, you know, the first proper song on the EP, and it's called All You. And I started writing that back in late 2009, I want to say. I started coming up with it, and finished it off around last year. You know, one thing I've said a lot in my videos is I usually don't write stuff all at once. Occasionally it'll happen, but usually things come in pieces to me. I'll get a riff, I'll get a chord progression, I'll get, you know, a verse, I'll get a chorus, or I'll get a bridge, or whatever. And then somewhere down the line, you know, if the material's strong enough, I can kind of put it all together and, you know, come up with a song. And this was kind of one of those cases. I actually had, you know, about 4 of the verses of the song. I needed a couple more, and I already had the choruses, so I already had most of the lyrics, and I already had the music. So it was just a matter of finishing off the lyrics, and I finished off the lyric, and there it was. I had a song. All You is kind of an interesting song, because the protagonist of the song comes off more as an antagonist a bit. But it actually starts off as a protagonist and then kind of ends up as an antagonist, but then goes back to being a protagonist again, because in the verses of the song, it's the person telling another person what they need to do to kind of get motivated and get going in their lives, and, you know, do what they need to do. But then in the choruses saying, you know what, you'll probably never do it, it'll never happen for you, you know. And so it's kind of a bit of reverse psychology, and I'm sure we've all had people like that in our lives who, you know, we know they've got the potential, and we could tell them a million times they have the potential, and it doesn't matter, they're not going to do it. They're just, you know, whether they're lazy or they're scared or just don't really care to begin with, you know. And sometimes the best way to get people like that motivated is to actually kind of do a little reverse psychology and say, yeah, you know what, maybe you should just forget about it, don't worry about it. So it comes off as being kind of passive aggressive, but really the protagonist, although seeming like an antagonist in that part of the song, is really a protagonist throughout the entire song. And especially at the end, you know, because the chorus goes, you know, but it's easier said than done, and you'll always be on the run, never gonna be the one to ride into the sun. And at the end of the song, there's like a vamp in the outro, and it goes, you know, ride into the sun, come on, don't you want to ride into the sun? So that final bit of encouragement, you know. So but I kind of like that. How it goes back and forth like that. Musically, pretty cool little song, you know, very very cool feel to it. It's got cool lead guitar and a cool guitar solo in the middle, little guitar arpeggio in the outro, you know, and just, you know, acoustic guitar, bass, vocal, a little backing vocal, and a couple of the choruses. Very sparse, but used to good effect. I like that one. That's one of the songs that I'm promoting from the EP. The next song on the EP is a thing called Naive. And if I'm going to get flack for any of the songs on this is probably going to be one of them. The other one is the last song of the EP, but I'll get to that. But I wrote Naive, kind of basically, Naive is an amalgamation of a lot of women I knew, you know, when I was younger, and girls I knew when I was growing up and in school, and how it always amazed me that despite a lot of these women being very strong, independent, they think for themselves, and clearly knew better in regards to a lot of things in life, they would always end up with these jerk guys. The guys just treated them like crap, and guys only treated them as though they were objects. And the thing that always killed me was that I knew that these women were smart and independent and strong, but yet they would put up with this crap. And I never got that. So I kind of wrote the song to kind of explore that a little bit. The song might come off as kind of sexist because, in the song, basically I'm saying, silly little girl, when will you understand that it takes much more than store-bought charm to make him your man, and things like that. And it sounds like I'm berating the woman in the song, but I'm not. I'm actually just telling her, like, come on, you're better than this, you don't need this, you don't deserve this, why are you putting up with this? So it's really a feminist song, actually. It's not sexist at all. It's not misogynistic at all. It's actually very pro-woman. But it's crazy because, I still see it to this day. I see these women who are, really strong and smart and beautiful women that just end up with these guys that are just, quite frankly, assholes. And I'm not trying to say that I'm a gem or anything like that. In fact, I'm sure my wife would probably tell you otherwise, and I don't think I could argue with her. But, I think there's something to be said for, just common decency and how you treat a person and what you expect from a person, and, especially from a woman, you know what I mean? I was raised by, my mother was a great woman, and my grandmother was a great woman, and they always taught me to respect women and, not treat them like garbage, basically, which I think is a common sense thing. You shouldn't do that. But yet so many guys do, and the sad thing is that so many women will put up with it. And I just never understood that, and it always kind of blew my mind. So I wrote a song about it. And the song is very, kind of a, I don't like to put myself in a box or categorize myself, but it's very kind of like McCartney-esque. Think, And I Love Her from the Hard Day's Night album. That kind of vibe and feel. So there's an acoustic guitar solo on this, which came out really cool. Because I had never done an acoustic guitar solo before. All my guitar solos that I've done on my albums have been electric, so it's the first time I tried anything acoustic, and I was kind of worried it wouldn't come out as great or sound as even, but it sounded alright, so I was very happy with it. And at the end of the song, there's a lap steel slide guitar. It kind of plays these kind of high, lonesome notes at the end, because at the end of the song there's also a modulation, which is another thing that I've never done in my songs before, so that was kind of cool. That was different. And my vocal on this song is double tracked. So that means there's two of me singing at the same time, singing the same part. So it kind of gives it this cool effect. Again, very kind of Beatles-esque. They did that a lot. And that's the other song that I'm promoting from the EP. And really happy with that one. Really happy with the way that one came out. And the last song on the EP is a song called Beware. And I started writing this one about 2 years ago. And again, it was another one of those songs that I had like half of the lyrics for and kind of a musical idea for. I originally had the music idea, I came up with this arpeggio on the guitar. And it sounded really cool, so I recorded it. And when I went to do the actual song, I was like, I don't like the way it sounds. I don't like the way that guitar arpeggio sounds. Once I have a vocal in there, it just sounds kind of, I don't know, it didn't feel right. And for a song like Beware, which is a little darker song, a little more, serious. Not that there's songs on here that aren't serious, but I mean, this is kind of the most serious song. It's the last song on the EP. I felt like I needed something more. So I played the part on piano. So I played it on my keyboard and loved it. Came out great. And so before I know it, there were no guitars on the song, and I originally had ideas for guitar parts, and I didn't end up doing any guitar parts because things worked out better doing the main part of the piano and then doing the other parts on a synthesizer. It just came out a lot better. I do play bass on the song, in addition to obviously singing lead vocals and backing vocals. And again, my good friend Adam Kime from Ash Radio played the synth part in the choruses of the song, because I couldn't understand, again, as I've said, I'm not a classically trained musician. I don't write sheet music. I don't know how to read it. I have a basic understanding of chords, and I can kind of structure things, put them together. But when it comes to technicalities, I'm not the guy to talk to about that. Fortunately, Adam is a little better at that stuff than I am. Well, a lot better at that stuff than I am. And he was able to actually figure out the chords I wanted there, because I was able to sing the chords to him that were in that specific part. But for whatever reason, I couldn't figure it out on the keyboard. I'm not that proficient on the keyboard. So he was able to figure it out, and he played it. So helped me finish off the song, basically. But it came out really, really good, and that's one thing I'm kind of proud of about this release is this song, Beware, and the intro track, Dim Spark, are both, synthesizer-driven songs, keyboard-driven songs. And me not being a keyboard player, they came out pretty well, and I was really surprised by that, because I thought those were the ones I was going to have a lot of difficulty with, and they weren't easy by any stretch, don't get me wrong. I mean, they definitely presented their challenges, but they came out, way better than I ever expected, so I was very happy with that. Lyrically, Beware is basically just, the message of the song is, the title of the song is just beware. We live in a world where everyone wants to be fiercely independent, and is, to a degree, but yet so many of us are just sheep that just blindly follow whatever comes along. And there's nothing wrong with, wanting to follow something or believe in something, or, subscribe to a certain thought process, or, a way of life, or whatever. But I also think you kind of can't put all your eggs in that one basket, You got to be a little wary of things. You got to question things at least a little bit, Because I think if we blindly follow things in life, then we do lose our individualism, and we kind of do lose our sense of purpose in this world. And so that's just my personal philosophy on those sort of things, And the thing is, in the song is, I don't ever, outright say, don't do this or don't do that. I would never do that, and I've never done that in any of my songs. My songs are very open-ended, as far as interpretation goes. You take from it what you will, apply it to your life however you wish, or apply it to, your situation however you wish. But while I don't say, don't do this or don't do that, I just basically say, just be careful, beware, because things aren't always what they seem in this world, and it's easy to get, taken for a fool, basically. But at the end of the day, we're the ones who present ourselves as fools, so don't present yourself as a fool, Be informed about the world around you, ask questions, don't blindly follow, and just, watch out for yourself, beware. That's the message of the song. So that's pretty much all I can say about that song. But there probably will be a little controversy with that song, because there's one line where I say, don't trust religion, believe what's in your soul. No God can help you, heal you, or make you whole. And that'll probably piss a few people off. But again, as I said, I don't say don't follow religion. I don't say don't go to church. I just said, don't trust it. You know, don't trust it completely. You just, keep an open mind. You know, don't blindly follow. You know. So that's really all I can say about that song. So, yeah, the last two songs on the EP might raise some eyebrows, but that might not necessarily be a bad thing. I mean, if it gets people talking, it gets more people to listen to my music, that's always a good thing. But again, that's the thing about songwriting is that that's just my views on things and my opinions on things, and I just my thing about songwriting is I've always just presented stuff as is or as I see it. I don't point one way or another. I leave that up to the listener, and I've always respected songwriters who could do that. Lou Reed was a great one for that. He would always talk about these really kind of dark or seedy topics in his songs, but he never said if they were bad. He never said if they were good. He was just kind of like, here it is. This is what it is, and this is how I see it, and this is what it looks like, and you make of it what you will. And I think that's the best way to write songs, because you're leaving it open to a much broader interpretation, and therefore more people can connect. And that's what I've always been about with my songs. I just want whoever listens to these songs to be able to take something from them, or say, yeah, I know what that feels like, or yeah, I'm going through that, or yeah, I know someone who's going through that, or yeah, I could see that happening, or that's basically all I want to do. Is I want to get people to think and to see things in maybe a little different way, and that's it. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to brainwash anyone. I'm not trying to convert anyone to anything. I'm just presenting a point of view, and you don't have to agree with it. But the great thing about it is you don't have to agree with it, but you can still take your own version of what you believe about it from it. So that's always kind of been a big part of my songwriting. And so that's basically all about the songs on the EP. And I'll talk a little bit about the production, because that's going to be the most stark difference in my previous releases, because my previous releases have all been full band releases. I've had some songs on some albums and stuff that have been acoustic, or if not mainly acoustic, if they featured acoustic elements. This EP is like I said, two of the songs are synthesizers, have synthesizers and vocals, and two of the songs feature guitar and vocals. None of the songs have any percussion on them. No drums, no kind of percussion, nothing. And two reasons for that. One, I really don't have anybody to play those instruments. And two, these songs didn't really call for them. They just didn't need it. I wanted the lyrics to stand out. I wanted the melodies to stand out, and that was the more important thing with these songs. And I think by not having the drums or any kind of percussion, it helps that the melody can stand out a bit more. The lyrics stand out a bit more. It's a little more direct, and I like that. But it also presented a challenge, because with recordings with drums on them, if there's little flubs on some of the instruments, the drums might cover it up. So there was nothing to cover up anything. So if there was anything that I screwed up, I had to go back and do it over again. Which, I don't care. I have no problem with that. I want it to be, a good, solid release. I don't want there to be any screw-ups on it. But even like the slightest little things, like there was a little bit of string noise, or, a note rang out a little longer than I wanted it to, or something like that. Now all of a sudden I had to account for those things and make adjustments. So it presented a bit of a challenge in that respect, but I was able to smooth out the rough edges and make something that was presentable. But there was one more reason too that there's no drums or percussion on this release, and it's because on the rare occasion that I perform live, I don't perform with a drummer. I can't tell you the last time I performed with a drummer. It's been at least 6 years, And so when I perform, you know, it's just me and the acoustic guitar. So the couple of songs that I am going to play, when and if I, do get any shows lined up, are going to be the guitar-based songs on here. Because obviously I'm not much of a keyboard player, so I'm not going to be dragging the synthesizer to a show and playing those other two songs. But the two songs I am playing are, guitar-based songs. So, I felt that it would be a better representation of me as I am when you see me live, to just do these songs, bare bones, just do them as they are and as I wrote them, which was just on the acoustic guitar. So, would it have been cool to do these songs full band? Yeah, sure. It would have been cool. It would have been fun. But ultimately, it would have been all for naught. And to be honest with you, they wouldn't have come out the same way that they did if I had them fleshed out full band. I don't think they would have had the same vibe. And the particular vibe for this release was, I wanted this to be a little more, stripped down. But still, stripped down, but not, sparse and not bare, There's still a lot going on, like I said, there's my acoustic guitar and the bass and the lead vocal, and there's also harmony vocals, backing vocals, there's, guitar solos, there's lap steel slide guitar, there's arpeggio guitar, so there's a lot of other stuff going on. It's not just guitar and vocal, I would never want to make an album that was just, me playing guitar and singing. It's just, I, as a music fan, would want more. Some musicians can kind of pull that off, and it's not that I couldn't pull it off. It's just I know that there's more layers to the songs, and why not give the songs more layers, especially if it helps them out and helps present them in the best possible light. So, and that's kind of the coolest thing about this release is that they're more stripped back, but they're not barren. They're still very full sounding. You listen to these songs, they still sound very full. So I'm very proud of that. And another thing about this release is, as I've said, is that I play everything on this release, and that's the first time I've played everything on a release in, ever really. My last single, the Liking and Hunter single, I played everything on that except for the drums. That was a drum program that Adam Kime did. He programmed the drums for that because I, again, didn't have a real drummer at the time. So I played everything on that. But this really harkens back more to my debut album, Yours in Rock, and I played everything on that except the drums. So this kind of harkened back to that. I'm playing bass, I'm playing lead guitar, I'm doing guitar solos, I'm playing rhythm guitar, I'm doing backing and harmony vocals, Whereas on Years in Rock and other subsequent releases, I did some of that, but I would have other people doing it too. So, all but the synthesizer and the choruses of Beware, which was played by Adam Kime, everything on this release is played by me. And so this release is me. It's raw, it's real, there's no BS here. What you hear is what you get. And again, even with the other things going on in the songs, the backing vocals, the double track vocal in the song Naive, and the guitar solos and the lead guitar parts, the basic element of the song is the acoustic guitar and my vocal, and that's what shines through. And that was important that it was like that, because as I said, when I play live, I'm going to play a couple of these songs, that's how they're going to be performed. So I felt it was important to present them in that way. So that was kind of my goal with the production. I wanted to get a more raw sound, a more real sound, but yet still somewhat produced. And I feel that I achieved that, and I hope that you'll feel that way too. The EP comes in at 12 and a half minutes, so Not a bad time at all. You know, certainly, you know, not so short that you're going to forget it, and not so long that you're not going to want to listen to it, you know. I know bands nowadays will release EPs, they're like 8 or 9 songs, and they're like almost 40 minutes long, and they call them an EP, and I don't know how you could do that. I know you could put, you know, a ton of songs on a CD, but, you know, I've never subscribed to that, you know what I mean? I think an album is any kind of, you know, complete, you know, series of songs that has a vibe and a feel, you know. And you know, albums, you know, are of a certain length, but I think of albums and EPs and stuff more in terms of the old school definitions of them. Like an album back in the 60s could be like, it could be as little as like 25 minutes and as much as 40 minutes, you know. And EPs were typically like 10 or 12 minutes. You would have, you know, they came out on 7-inch singles, and there were 2 songs on each side, so you'd have 4 songs, you know. And that to me is more typical extended play release. So that's what I've aimed for with this release, and with my previous EP, Nervous No More. So that's basically all I really have to say about the release. I hope that people like it. I hope that people give it a listen at the very least. It's going to be available on December 7th, 2018 on chrishludzik.bandcamp.com, and the name of the release is Another Last Stand. So I hope that you will all join me as I make another last stand on December 7th, 2018. And thank you for watching. This has been Chris Hludzik Explains, and I'll see you next time. Take care.